Poor Maid. Searches 20 years for her brother. He's been a CEO all along. The autumn wind carried the scent of mooncakes through the crowded factory courtyard. Workers lined up eagerly, their faces tired but hopeful as the mid-autumn festival approached. Jade Rivers stood near the back of the line, her calloused hands clutching a worn photograph. 20 years had passed since her brother disappeared, yet she searched every face in the crowd with desperate hope. "Everyone, come get your festival treats," the supervisor called out, distributing small packages. Jade watched as her co-workers laughed and chatted about their holiday plans. She thought of her own tiny apartment where her daughter Luna waited, probably hungry again. "Jade, you don't collect yours here," Supervisor Klein said with a smirk. "Director Monroe wants to see you in his office tonight. Bring the proper gifts if you want your share." Jade's stomach twisted. She knew what that meant. The textile factory where she worked was notorious for such arrangements. Workers who refused the director's advances found themselves without work, without pay, without hope. But Jade had endured worse. For Luna's sake, she could endure anything. As the crowd dispersed, Jade approached another group of workers. "Please, has anyone seen this boy? He would be a man now. My brother went missing 20 years ago. I'm offering a reward for any information." The workers glanced at the faded photo and shook their heads. One older woman patted her shoulder sympathetically. "Child, 20 years is a long time. Perhaps it's time to let go." But Jade couldn't let go. Her brother was the only family she had left, the only person who had truly loved her before life tore them apart. She remembered his small hand in hers, his trusting smile, the day she lost him in the market crowd. The guilt never faded. A commotion at the factory gates caught everyone's attention. A dirty, disheveled man had collapsed near the entrance, clutching his chest. Workers gathered around, unsure whether to help or keep their distance. Jade pushed through the crowd and knelt beside him. "Someone help me get him to the hospital," she called out. "He needs medical attention." "Don't be foolish," Klein warned. "He's probably faking it to scam you. These beggars are everywhere during festival season." But something about the man's face seemed familiar to Jade. She couldn't place it, yet her heart recognized what her mind couldn't. "I'll take responsibility. Just help me get him into a vehicle." The man's eyes fluttered open, meeting hers with an intense gaze that made her breath catch. "Sister," he whispered so quietly that only she could hear. Then his eyes closed again. Jade's hands trembled as she checked his pulse. The word echoed in her mind. Sister. Could it be? After all these years? But before she could process the thought, other workers helped her load the man onto a cart. She gave them the last of her savings to take him to the nearest clinic. As evening fell, Jade returned to the factory to face Director Monroe. The office reeked of cigarette smoke and expensive liquor. Monroe lounged behind his desk, his eyes gleaming with predatory interest as Jade entered. "Ah, Jade, I've been waiting. Did you bring my festival gift?" Jade set down a small package. 3 ducks, purchased with money she'd earned by donating blood that morning. Her arms still ached from the needle. "I brought what I could afford, Director." Monroe opened the package and laughed. 3 ducks. How thoughtful. "But you know what I really want, don't you?" Before Jade could respond, the door burst open. A young man in worker's clothes stood in the doorway, his face twisted with anger. "So this is how you conduct business, Monroe? Extorting gifts from struggling workers?" "Who are you?" Monroe demanded, standing abruptly. "This is a private meeting." "I'm Jade's brother. She came to help me find work. I'll be starting in the cafeteria tomorrow." Jade stared at the young man in shock. His eyes, now clear and sharp, met hers with barely concealed emotion. It was the same man from the gates, transformed and healthy. But more importantly, it was him. After 20 years, countless false leads, and endless disappointment, her brother stood before her. "Brother," she whispered, hardly daring to believe. "Yes, sister. It's me, Vincent." Monroe's face darkened. "I don't care who you are. The cafeteria position requires proper payment. 3 ducks won't cover both of you." Vincent stepped forward, his demeanor suddenly commanding despite his shabby clothes. "Actually, I think we need to discuss your business practices, Director. How much of the company's meal budget have you been pocketing? How many workers have you extorted?" "How dare you?" Monroe sputtered. "Security, remove these troublemakers." But Vincent pulled out a smartphone, displaying recorded conversations and financial documents. "Every bribe, every misappropriated fund, every harassment. I have evidence of everything. The question is whether you want this handled quietly or publicly." Jade watched in amazement as her brother, whom she remembered as a helpless child, faced down the man who had terrorized the factory for years. Monroe's face went pale as he realized the trap he'd walked into. "Who are you, really?" Monroe asked, his voice shaking. "Someone who's been searching for his sister," Vincent replied. "Someone who wanted to see firsthand what she'd been enduring. And someone who's about to make a lot of changes around here." The office door opened again, and several men in suits entered. "Director Monroe, we're from the corporate headquarters. There are some serious questions about your management that need answering." As Monroe was led away, still protesting, Vincent turned to Jade. She saw tears in his eyes matching her own. "I'm sorry I took so long to find you, sister, but I'm here now, and I promise no one will ever hurt you again." Jade collapsed into his arms, 20 years of pain and loneliness finally breaking free. "I never stopped looking for you, never stopped hoping. I know. I heard about your searches. Every factory, every market, every corner where you asked about a lost boy. That's how I finally tracked you down." As they stood together in that corrupt office, the first chapter of their reunion began. But Vincent knew that revealing his true identity as the CEO of Rivers Industrial Group would have to wait. First, he needed to understand the depth of his sister's suffering and ensure justice for all the workers who had been exploited. The festival moon rose outside, witnessing a promise 20 years in the making finally beginning to unfold. The morning sun filtered through the grimy windows of Jade's tiny apartment. Vincent sat at the small wooden table, watching his sister prepare breakfast with practiced efficiency. Every movement revealed her years of hardship, the way she carefully measured each grain of rice, the worn state of her cooking utensils, the patches on Luna's school uniform hanging by the door. "Sister, where is Luna?" Vincent asked, noticing the empty second room. Jade's hands paused over the pot. "She lives with her father's family. After the divorce, they took her. I only get to see her once a month if I'm lucky." Vincent's jaw tightened. "Tell me everything." Over weak tea and plain rice porridge, Jade revealed her story. 8 years ago, she had married Gordon Yates, a man who seemed kind at first but revealed his true nature after the wedding. He drank heavily, gambled away every coin, and beat her when his luck turned sour. When Jade became pregnant, she hoped the baby would change him. Instead, Gordon grew worse. "I filed for divorce when Luna was 6 months old," Jade explained, her voice hollow. "I was still recovering from childbirth when Gordon's mother, Grandmother Rose, came to the hospital. She said I was an unfit mother, too poor and weak to raise a child properly. She took Luna right from my arms." "That's kidnapping," Vincent said, anger rising in his chest. "The court said otherwise. Gordon's family had money and connections in our village. They painted me as an unstable woman who abandoned her family. I was granted visitation rights, but they control when I see her. They use my daughter to keep me obedient, sending letters demanding money every month with threats to cut off all contact if I refuse." Vincent reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "That ends now. We're getting Luna back." "It's not that simple, Vincent. The Yates family is powerful in Willowbrook Village. They have the local officials in their pocket. I'm just a factory worker. Who would listen to me?" "You're not just a factory worker anymore. You have me." Before Jade could respond, a knock at the door interrupted them. Secretary Hayes stood outside, dressed in plain clothes to avoid drawing attention. Vincent had summoned him earlier to begin gathering information about the Yates family and the custody arrangement. "Chairman Rivers," Hayes began, then caught himself at Vincent's warning look. "I mean, Brother Vincent, I have the documents you requested." Vincent reviewed the papers with growing fury. The custody agreement was a sham, signed under duress when Jade was barely coherent from postpartum complications. Gordon had no stable income and a criminal record for assault and gambling debts. Grandmother Rose had falsified financial statements to appear more capable than she was. "This won't stand up in any legitimate court," Vincent said. "We'll have it overturned immediately." "There's more," Hayes added quietly. "Gordon Yates currently owes money to several dangerous creditors. He's been using Luna as collateral, promising her future earnings to pay his debts. Some of these men are discussing selling her into labor when she turns 12. Jade's face went white. "No. Oh God, no." Vincent stood abruptly, his calm facade cracking. "Hayes, I want our legal team mobilized within the hour. File for emergency custody based on child endangerment. I also want a full investigation into every official in Willowbrook Village who enabled this travesty, and send a security team to watch Luna immediately. No one touches that child." "Vincent, this will expose who you are," Jade protested weakly. "I don't care. Luna's safety matters more than any disguise." As Hayes left to execute the orders, Vincent sat beside his sister. "I spent 20 years building my company, accumulating wealth and power. I told myself it was to find you, to be worthy of being your brother again. But what good is any of it if I can't protect the people I love?" Jade wiped her eyes. "How did you become so successful? What happened after we were separated?" Vincent's expression grew distant. "After I lost you in the market that day, I was found by Beatrice Rivers. She was a businesswoman who had lost her own son. She saw something in me, maybe reminded her of him. She adopted me, educated me, trained me to take over her company. When she became ill 5 years ago, she made me promise to find you before she died. She wanted to meet the sister I talked about constantly." "Is she the one who helped you search?" "Yes. She hired investigators, placed advertisements, even funded programs to reunite separated families. But you were so hard to find because you kept moving, factory to factory, searching for me while I searched for you. We were always just missing each other." A sad smile crossed Jade's face. "All those years, we were both looking. If only I'd known you were alive and successful, I wouldn't have suffered so much." "That's exactly why I needed to come in disguise first," Vincent explained. "Mother Beatrice warned me that countless people would pretend to be you, hoping to claim my fortune. I needed to find you myself, to know your heart hadn't changed despite the hardships. What I found was better than I imagined. You stayed kind, honest, and loving even when the world gave you every reason to become bitter." Their conversation was interrupted by Jade's phone ringing. Her face paled as she listened to the voice on the other end. "What?" "Yes, I understand. I'll come right away." "What's wrong?" Vincent asked as she grabbed her coat. "That was Grandmother Rose. She says Luna fell ill suddenly. She's demanding I come to Willowbrook immediately and bring money for the hospital bill." Vincent stood. "I'm coming with you." "No, it might be dangerous. Gordon and his friends can be violent. All the more reason I'm not letting you go alone." They took Vincent's car, a modest sedan that wouldn't draw attention. As they drove toward Willowbrook Village, Vincent noticed his sister's hands trembling in her lap. He reached over and squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Whatever happens, remember you're not alone anymore." Willowbrook Village sat nestled in a valley, its shabby houses clustered around a muddy main road. The Yates family compound dominated the eastern edge, a sprawling collection of buildings that spoke of old money and older corruption. Grandmother Rose waited at the gate, her weathered face twisted in false concern. Behind her stood Gordon, bloated and red-faced from drinking, and several rough-looking men who were clearly his gambling associates. "Jade, finally," Rose said mockingly. "Your daughter has been crying for you, such a sickly child. The hospital bill came to $5,000 when? I assume you brought it?" "Where is Luna?" "I want to see her first," Jade demanded. "Money first, then you can see her. That's always been our arrangement." Vincent stepped forward. "I'm Jade's brother. I'd like to see my niece as well." Gordon's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Brother?" Jade never mentioned a brother. "Who are you, really?" "Someone who's very interested in how you've been treating my sister and her daughter." One of Gordon's associates, a scarred man named Butch, laughed roughly. "Tough guy, huh? You picked the wrong village to play hero, friend. Rose held up a hand. Now, if this gentleman wants to help Jade with her debts, we should be welcoming. 5,000 for the hospital bill, plus another 3,000 for this month's child support. 8,000 total, unless you want to negotiate for custody, which would cost considerably more. How much for full custody? Vincent asked calmly. The question surprised them. Rose's eyes gleamed with greed. Permanent custody? Well, we've raised that girl for 8 years. Fed her, clothed her, educated her. I'd say 50,000 yen is fair compensation. 50,000? Jade gasped. That's extortion. That's business, Gordon slurred. You want the brat back, you pay what she's worth. Otherwise, we've got buyers lined up. Factory work, domestic service, plenty of people wanting young workers. Vincent's expression remained neutral, but his voice dropped to ice. You just admitted to planning human trafficking, in front of witnesses. Gordon laughed. Witnesses? Who's going to believe some factory trash? We own this village. The police chief is my uncle. The magistrate is Rose's cousin. You've got no power here. Is that so? Vincent pulled out his phone. Hayes, did you record all of that? Every word, sir, came the reply over speakerphone. Rose's face twisted in anger. You're recording us? That's illegal. Actually, it's perfectly legal when documenting criminal activity. Hayes, send that recording to every law enforcement agency in the province. Also notify our security team to move in now. Within minutes, 3 black vehicles pulled up to the compound. Men in professional security uniforms emerged, accompanied by 2 police officers from the provincial capital. Gordon and his associates tried to flee but were quickly surrounded. What is this? Rose shrieked. You have no authority here. One of the provincial officers stepped forward. We have a warrant for Gordon Yates's arrest on charges of child endangerment and conspiracy to traffic a minor. We also have questions for Rose Yates regarding falsified custody documents and extortion. As Gordon was handcuffed, he stared at Vincent with dawning realization. Who are you? Vincent Rivers, CEO of Rivers Industrial Group, also known as Jade's brother, whom she's been searching for 20 years. And as of today, the person who's going to make sure you never hurt another child. Jade grabbed Vincent's arm. Luna, where is she? A woman officer emerged from the house, carrying a small girl wrapped in a blanket. Luna was thin and pale, with bruises on her arms that clearly hadn't come from any illness. Jade rushed forward, gathering her daughter into her arms with a sob. Mama, Luna whispered. I knew you'd come. I'm here, baby. I'm here. And I'm never leaving you again. Vincent watched the reunion with tears in his eyes. 20 years of searching, 8 years of his sister's suffering, all leading to this moment. But he knew the battle wasn't over. The corrupt officials who had enabled the Yates family still needed to answer for their crimes. The factory system that had exploited Jade and countless others required reform, and his own identity as CEO would soon become public knowledge, bringing new challenges. But for now, watching his sister hold her daughter safe in her arms, Vincent felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 decades. He felt complete. The broken pieces of their family were finally beginning to heal. As they prepared to leave Willowbrook Village, Grandmother Rose called out desperately, You can't do this. That child belongs to us. We raised her. Vincent turned back, his voice carrying across the compound. You didn't raise her. You imprisoned her. There's a difference, and you're about to learn what justice looks like when it can't be bought. The drive back to the city was quiet. Luna slept in her mother's arms, finally safe. Vincent glanced at his sister, seeing peace on her face for the first time since their reunion. What happens now? Jade asked softly. Now we go home. Tomorrow we start building the life you and Luna deserve. 3 weeks had passed since Luna's rescue. Jade watched her daughter sleep peacefully in the luxurious bedroom Vincent had prepared for them. The silk sheets, the soft carpet, the toys lining the shelves. Everything felt like a dream. Yet every morning, Jade woke expecting to find herself back in her cramped apartment, only to realize this beautiful reality was true. A gentle knock interrupted her thoughts. Vincent entered, dressed in an elegant suit that transformed him from the humble worker she'd known into the powerful businessman he truly was. Sister, we need to talk about tonight, he said, sitting beside her on the velvet sofa. "The banquet," Jade replied nervously. She'd been dreading this evening for days. Vincent wanted to formally introduce her to society as his sister, to announce their reunion to all of Riverside City's elite. The thought terrified her. "You don't have to go through with this if you're uncomfortable," Vincent assured her. "But I think it's important, not just for announcing our relationship, but for protecting you and Luna. Once everyone knows you're my family, no one will dare threaten you again." Jade looked down at her work-roughened hands. "Vincent, I'm just a factory maid. I don't belong in your world of wealthy business people and socialites. What if I embarrass you?" Vincent took her hands in his. "You could never embarrass me. You're the bravest person I know. You survived abuse, poverty, and separation while never losing your kindness or integrity. That's worth more than all the wealth in Riverside City." "What about Mother Beatrice? Will she accept me?" A smile crossed Vincent's face. "Actually, Mother has a confession to make. She'll explain tonight. But trust me, she already loves you." As afternoon turned to evening, Vincent's stylist arrived to help Jade prepare. The woman, named Francesca, was kind and patient, understanding Jade's discomfort with the elaborate gown and jewelry. "You have natural elegance," Francesca said while arranging Jade's hair. "Some women spend fortunes trying to achieve what you have naturally, grace born from genuine character." Luna, dressed in a princess gown that made her squeal with delight, twirled around the room. "Mama, you look like a queen." Jade barely recognized herself in the mirror. The emerald gown brought out the green flecks in her brown eyes. Diamond earrings sparkled at her ears. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo that softened her features. She looked like someone who belonged in Vincent's world, even if she didn't feel that way inside. The banquet hall of the Riverside Grand Hotel blazed with lights. Hundreds of guests mingled beneath crystal chandeliers, their designer clothes and expensive jewelry creating a sea of wealth and privilege. Jade clutched Vincent's arm as they entered through a side entrance, her heart pounding. "Remember," Vincent whispered, "you're not here to impress them. They should be honored to meet you." But Vincent had insisted Jade arrive separately, wanting to make a dramatic entrance later. So Jade found herself alone in the garden courtyard, trying to calm her racing nerves while Luna played nearby with Vincent's nephew, a sweet boy named Owen, who had immediately befriended her daughter. "Owen, darling, where are you?" a sharp voice called. A woman in a stunning red gown emerged from the hall, her perfectly made-up face scanning the courtyard. This was Vanessa Cho, daughter of one of Riverside City's wealthiest families, and according to gossip Jade had overheard, Vincent's expected fiancé. Vanessa's eyes landed on Jade, and her expression instantly hardened with suspicion and contempt. "Who are you? How did someone like you get into this private event?" "I was invited," Jade replied quietly, trying to avoid confrontation. "Invited?" Vanessa laughed mockingly. "Look at you. That dress might be expensive, but I can see right through the disguise. You're no socialite. Those hands have seen manual labor. That posture screams poverty. Let me guess, you're someone's maid who stole an invitation?" "Please, I don't want any trouble," Jade said, backing away. But Vanessa stepped closer, her voice rising to attract attention. "I know exactly what you are. A gold digger who heard about Vincent Rivers and decided to crash his party, probably hoping to seduce him or his nephew. Well, it won't work. Vincent belongs to me, and I won't let some peasant ruin our engagement announcement." Other guests began gathering, drawn by the commotion. Jade felt her face burning with humiliation. She wanted to run, to disappear, but Luna was watching with frightened eyes. She couldn't show her daughter that bullies should be feared. "I'm not a gold digger," Jade said firmly. "I'm a guest here, just like you." "A guest?" Vanessa shrieked. "Security! This woman is an imposter. She snuck into our banquet and is now harassing me. Remove her immediately." Two security guards approached hesitantly. One of them recognized Jade from Vincent's earlier instructions, but seemed confused about how to proceed. Vanessa noticed the hesitation and grew more aggressive. "What are you waiting for? Throw this trash out. She's probably planning to rob us all. Look at her, clearly a criminal from the slums. Owen, get away from that dirty child she brought with her." Luna began crying. Jade rushed to comfort her daughter, but Vanessa deliberately stepped on Jade's gown, tearing the delicate fabric. Oops, so clumsy. But then, cheap rental gowns tear so easily, don't they? That's enough. A commanding voice cut through the crowd. Beatrice Rivers emerged from the hall, leaning on an elegant cane. Despite her 70 years, she carried herself with undeniable authority. Miss Cho, you will apologize to my guest immediately. Vanessa's confidence wavered for only a moment. Mrs. Rivers, with all respect, this woman is clearly an imposter. I'm trying to protect your family from a con artist. Con artist? Beatrice's eyes flashed dangerously. Young woman, you have no idea who you're speaking about. Then enlighten me, Vanessa challenged. Who is this supposed guest? What's her name? What family does she come from? Before Beatrice could answer, Vincent strode into the courtyard, his face dark with fury. Behind him came Hayes and several board members from Rivers Industrial Group. The crowd parted instinctively before his anger. Her name is Jade Rivers, Vincent announced, his voice carrying across the courtyard. She comes from my family. She is my sister, the one I've spent 20 years searching for. And you just committed the grave mistake of insulting her in front of me. The crowd gasped. Vanessa's face went white. Sister? That's impossible. She's just a factory worker, a divorced single mother with no education or breeding. How could she possibly be related to you? Breeding? Vincent's voice dropped to a deadly calm. You dare speak of breeding when you just demonstrated the manners of a street thug? My sister has more grace in her calloused hands than you possess in your entire privileged existence. He moved to Jade's side, gently helping her stand and examining the torn gown with barely controlled rage. This dress was custom made by Monique Fontaine, worth more than your entire wardrobe. But even if my sister wore rags, she would still be worth 1,000 of you. Beatrice approached Jade, her stern expression softening. My dear child, I owe you an apology. Vincent wanted to find you himself, to test whether you remained the good person he remembered. So I played along, even disguising myself to meet you at the hospital weeks ago. Do you remember helping an elderly woman who seemed to have a heart attack? Jade's eyes widened. That was you? Yes. I wanted to see your character for myself. You showed kindness to a stranger, sacrificed your own comfort to help someone you thought was in need. You gave me your last money for medicine without hesitation. That's when I knew you were truly Vincent's sister, not in blood alone, but in spirit. Tears streamed down Jade's face. You tested me? Forgive an old woman's caution, Beatrice said gently. Too many pretenders tried to claim Vincent over the years. I needed to protect my son. But from the moment I met you, I knew you were real. Welcome home, daughter. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Beatrice embraced Jade. Vincent joined them, wrapping both women in his arms. Luna, no longer crying, ran to join the family hug. Owen followed, cementing the scene of unity. Vanessa stood frozen, her face cycling through shock, disbelief, and dawning horror as she realized what she'd done. Her father, Chairman Cho, pushed through the crowd, his face purple with rage. Vanessa, you fool, he hissed. Do you realize what you've done? Our family's entire business depends on good relations with Rivers Industrial Group. Vincent turned to face them, his expression cold. Chairman Cho, your daughter just publicly humiliated my sister, damaged her property, frightened her child, and attempted to have her thrown out like garbage, all based on prejudice and arrogance. What do you propose to do about this? Chairman Cho grabbed Vanessa's arm roughly. Apologize immediately. I won't, Vanessa shrieked, her composure completely shattered. She's nobody, a peasant who got lucky. Vincent, you can't seriously choose her over me. Think of our family's alliance, our business merger, everything we planned. We planned nothing, Vincent said icily. You and your father assumed. My mother and I never agreed to any engagement, and after tonight, any business relationship between our families is terminated. You can't do this. Vanessa lunged forward, trying to grab Vincent's arm, but security finally intervened, holding her back. I love you. We're perfect together. Don't throw away everything for some trash you found in a factory. That trash is worth more than you'll ever understand, Vincent replied. She survived horrors you couldn't imagine while maintaining her humanity and kindness. She worked herself to exhaustion searching for me, while you spent your time shopping and gossiping. She is everything you pretend to be, but never could achieve through all your money and privilege. He turned to address the entire crowd. Let this be clear to everyone in Riverside City. Jade Rivers is my sister, recognized fully by myself and my mother. She and her daughter Luna are under the complete protection of the Rivers family. Anyone who disrespects them, disrespects us. Anyone who threatens them becomes our enemy. And anyone who supports them becomes our valued friend. The crowd erupted in applause, though Jade could see the calculation in many eyes. These people weren't applauding from genuine feeling, but from recognizing which side held power. Still, it meant safety for Luna, and that mattered more than anything. As Vanessa was escorted out, still screaming threats and insults, Jade felt the weight of 20 years lift from her shoulders. She was no longer alone, no longer powerless, no longer just surviving each day. She had family, protection, and most importantly, hope for the future. The banquet continued with Vincent formally introducing Jade to business partners, government officials, and society figures. Each person who had witnessed her humiliation now competed to show her respect. It was exhausting and overwhelming, but Jade handled each interaction with natural grace. Later, as the evening wound down, the family gathered on a private balcony overlooking the city. The autumn moon hung full and bright above them, just as it had 20 years ago when they were separated. "Happy Mid-Autumn Festival," Beatrice said, producing a box of mooncakes. "I made these myself, an old family recipe." They sat together, eating mooncakes and watching the moon. Luna fell asleep in Jade's lap, finally secure in her mother's permanent embrace. Vincent and Beatrice flanked them protectively, a family reunited against all odds. "What happens now?" Jade asked quietly. Vincent smiled. "Now you decide. You can join the company, live in the family estate, embrace this new life completely. Or you can return to your simple apartment and quiet existence, with our full support and protection. The choice is yours, sister." Jade looked at her sleeping daughter, then at the brother she'd mourned for 20 years, then at the mother figure who had tested and accepted her. She thought about the factory workers still suffering under corrupt management, the other single mothers struggling as she had, all the people who needed someone to advocate for them. "I want to help others," she said finally. "People like me, who have no voice or power. Can I do that?" Beatrice's eyes sparkled with approval. "My dear, you can do anything you choose. You have the Rivers name now, and with it comes responsibility to use our privilege for good. I think that's exactly what this family needs." As the moon reached its zenith, casting silver light over Riverside City, Jade felt truly at peace for the first time in 20 years. The journey had been painful, the struggles nearly unbearable, but they had led her here. To family, to safety, to purpose. The poor maid who had saved her brother by never giving up hope had discovered her true father was not a CEO everyone feared, but a family everyone could respect. And together, they would transform that respect into something meaningful, something lasting, something that would help others find their own way home. The never-ending story of their family had truly just begun.